sense of project management and true sense of agile project management. And then we'll talk about three key decisions that they need to make to, adopt project management. Then we'll discuss the consultant toolkit. When I was, designing this slide, I thought I should give you our internal secret that how we go and, manage the projects or, guide the teams about coaching agile and leading agile project management. And then we'll talk about the specifications or two specific elements that we have designed for our participants about how do we see agile from iteration-based agile versus the release-based agile. So that's the overall agenda that we are going to discuss today in this session. So first slide, when we talk about our service about SIMFOTIX, it's about me. We'll share you the slides. You can look into it later. Now, this is our first slide. When we talk about agile, the key interesting point is that agile for me, or I would say agile or agility right now is more of a fashion now than the, you can say, process to realize innovative ideas. When you talk about agile, when you say, what do you think about agile? So you will get very good terms, and you will hear the terms like agile is all about scrum, agile is all about, you can say, short sprints, agile is all about, you can say, in terms of time box events, agile is all about how do we lead a cross-functional team, or agile is all about from the perspective of scrum master or product owner. So these are, good terms, right? But when you talk about how do you see agile in your organization and how do you implement this thing, then we have a lot of, I would say, disparity. So if I look at the agile, I would say for me, first, agile is a mindset. Number one. And number two, I would say the second perspective of agile is that it is a method, or you can say it's a process for delivering innovative ideas through customer collaboration and adoption and learning. So that's how we need to see that agile. So we don't need to talk about agile in terms of specific elements of agile method or agile sprint or agile roles and agile documents. And when we talk about agile, we always hear about 4 manifestos of agile, or you can say, 12 principles of agile, and how do we make the agile in terms of iteration. They all are right? They all are good things. They are basic elements to go for. But when you talk about agile as a method, agile as a mindset, it's all about that how you are able to deliver the projects constantly. How do you able to manage the uncertainty and other elements of the project that you need to look into it. So yes, agile is a fashion, but we don't need to make it a fad fashion that is going to, dissolve in a quicker manner. So with that introduction of agile, when we talk about, how do we see the agile, the next important element that we need to look into it is when we talk about the problem. If we look at the presentation, we can see that they are big 4 tech companies. And interestingly, these are their failed products. So, when we talk about Google or Microsoft or Amazon or Apple, we think that they are giants, they are highly successful, multi-billion, trillion-dollar organizations, and they never had failures. But that's not the case. If you look at the, Google Glass, you can see that it's been pictured with at that time Prince Harry. So you can see that, Charles. So the point is that when you are promoting your product, right, with that kind of celebrity, and still it's unable to make profit, or it is unable to sustain, that's a question for lots of people. So the problem that we need to understand from the project management perspective is that how an organization is going to realize the real value of project management. And I believe the main problem is how the project team perceives the project value, number one, and how business perceives the value of project management. So these are 2 separate things. And generally, when we talk about this phenomena, we say that, we need to differentiate 2 core concepts. One is a business objective of projects. That is the one thing, right? And the second thing is the project product objective. And somehow these two concepts collide with each other. So I'm saying it again, what are these two things? One is project business objective, and the second thing is project product objective. Interestingly, when we look at the management, right? So whenever they launch any initiative, whenever they launch any project, they launch this project with project business objective. So you can say that every initiative, every project that organization is launching has a project business objective, right? But the next important question in that perspective would be that how organization is enabling their project teams to achieve the business objective. Or the more important question would be that are they really responsible to achieve the project business objectives? So these are the, you can say, competing factors, contrasting factors that people are unable to understand and comprehend. And when they deliver project, they look for people that, who is to be blamed. And that's where, we need to understand the overall perspective of project management. So doesn't matter we are leading a adoptive project or agile project per se, or we are leading a predictive project or waterfall project. We need to understand first that, whenever we are going for a project, what is the business objective of a project? So when any company goes for a project, so their business objective would be, say, to increase sale, to optimize business processes, to engage customers, or to retain employees, right? So these are the values, or you can say these are the benefits that organizations are supposed to achieve at the end of the project delivery. But when you look at the project product objective, right? So project product objective is to implement a CRM, or to implement an ERP, or to build, building asset, right? So here, when we look at the project perspective, the project team are mainly thinking about or mainly seeing the project from the perspective of features, functions, and assets. So you see, at one end, we have business management who are seeing the project result in terms of increase in sale, right? Let's suppose we need to implement a CRM application, customer relationship management application. So if I look at it from the business perspective, business will say that we need to achieve increase in sale. But if I look at the same project from the project team perspective, they will say that we have to implement, or we have to develop function and features for lead tracking, customer interaction, sales duration, sales closure. So they are all about the function, features, and asset. And interestingly, if you look at their metrics and KPIs, so business people metrics and KPIs are different, and project management team metrics and KPIs are very different for the same project. So you can see that these are two group of people who are working on same project, but one team success criteria is building the product, and the other team success criteria is utilizing the value of the project after the delivery. So these are the two main elements that we need to keep in our mind when we talk about the project, right? So when we understand these perspective and understand that, these are the key elements that we are addressing in our project. So now comes the problem behind the problem, right? So when we say problem behind the problem, in that perspective, when we talk about, how do we see a problem behind the problem, the overall element is, how we are working towards the overall perspective of, managing the uncertainty, resolving the complexity, and, dealing with the speed perspective. So first of all, when we talk about, say, uncertainty, how do we define uncertainty? Uncertainty is, how much knowledge we have, how much, unknown unknowns we have. So if I see the perspective of uncertainty from the project team perspective, so I would say project teams are concerned about detailed specification of scope. For them, the uncertainty of a project is what we are supposed to build, what are the function and features, and what are the specification of each features. So they want to, clear that area as soon as possible so that they can manage the uncertainty. But if you look at the business perspective, when you see that business is going to launch a new product, or business is going to launch a new department, or going to improve their performance, or engage the customer, for them the uncertainty is a very different perspective. So for them, let's suppose if a company is going to launch a new product, so for them the uncertainty is not about the specification of scope or detailing of function and features. For them, for business perspective, the uncertainty is that how many people are going to use our product, right? How quickly we can get traction, how many customers are willing to buy our product, what would be our market size. So you see, one team is looking at the same project from the technical perspective, from the scope perspective. So let's suppose when Google Glass was being developed, the technical team, engineering team, what was their uncertainty? Their uncertainty was how we are going to record the video, how we are going to integrate it into glasses, how technology is going to work, how we are going to reduce the size or weight of the glasses, and all these kind of things, right? So this is all about technical uncertainty, or you can say project team uncertainty in terms of functions, in terms of features, in terms of specification. But if you look at the business team, for them, the uncertainty is that how many people are willing to buy the Google Glass, right? How quickly we can make it a fashion brand, how quickly, we will earn more money from this thing. And for that, they have to uncover lot of areas. Number one, who is my real customer? So not everybody is going to wear Google Glasses. And the second important thing is that, what should be the price that I would target so that people are willing to buy? By the way, when they launch a Google Glass, the average price was around $1,500. And that is also one of the reasons that people did not opt it for it. And then, what would be my marketing channel that I use to, sell my product? So you see, the uncertainty of the project is very different from the perspective of project team versus the perspective of the business team. Now, if I look at the complexity parameter, in the context of complexity parameter, it's all about how many people from multiple departments are involved in a project, how I'm going to engage them, how I'm going to get the work on time with them. And I have to make sure that the right resources are available at the right time so that I can deliver my project. So this is the worry of a project team when they are talking about complexity or resolving the complexity. But if you look at the complexity from the business perspective, so their complexity is that how they are going to align the marketing and sales team. What should be the engagement of our marketing company or PR company or branding company, how we are going to use the distribution channel and sales channel to make this product available for individual users. So this complexity perspective is also very different when you look at the same project from the project team perspective versus the business perspective. Now the third, I would say, key variable or the key attribute of a project is speed. When you talk about speed from the perspective of project team, they are, talking about deadlines or timelines for delivery, that, how quickly we can deliver the project, how quickly we are able to deliver or ship the product with the specified quality. But if you look at the business perspective of the same kind of project, you will find out that the tension at the business side is that we got to know their competitor is also working on, right? So let's suppose when Google was making it, they got to know that some other companies are also making it. Facebook is also planning about it, and other big companies are also thinking about that same product. And their product should come first. Maybe they want to achieve the first mover advantage, right? Or they want to target the specific growth before other vendors are coming in and they are offering the same product at a cheaper price, or they are going to come up with a better technology, or maybe other elements. So if you see the whole perspective, these things are changing the paradigm and the way we look at the project. If you talk about, say, Microsoft Zune, so Microsoft actually launched Zune around after 5 years of Apple iPod, and they were trying to do the same thing. So you can say that they were not the first people who are coming in with the idea. So idea was already there, people were using it. They said, why not we use it? So you can say that from the technology perspective, they can see what Apple is doing, how they are building the overall ecosystem experience and whatnot. And then so technology was less for them, for technical team, right? And they knew that a lot of people are already using iPod. There is a market size for iPod, and if we are going to come up with a product which is niche, which can also provide ABC items, which has some differentiating angle, so we can also grab good part of the market. But the market is really willing to buy from Microsoft or not, that is again uncertain. On the other hand, if you look at the complexity perspective, same, how we are going to engage technical team, how we are going to engage engineering team, and to build the whole product, right? But from the complexity perspective, from business side, how we are going to distribute it, what would be our shop or sales channels through which we are going to work on it. And then here, speed is not as important as we're looking at, but if I'm coming up with a new feature that Apple does not have it, so how much time Apple will take to upgrade its existing iPod, and they will come up with the additional feature that we are providing, and we are saying that we are different from Apple iPod, and we have this thing. And that's again, it's not going to work for them. Same happened with Amazon. So when we talk about Amazon, we think that Amazon has products after product. Started as a e-commerce platform by selling the books, and then expand their horizon by selling the cloud services to Kindle e-reader, to you can say Alexa and all. But it's not that all their projects or all their product launches were successful. So one of the failed, I would say, launch from Amazon perspective was their Fire mobile phone, right? So when they came into the mobile area, there was already Apple was there, Samsung was there, and they thought that if they will come up with additional features, and which has some cool features, cool elements that people will like to prefer over Apple and others, then they will have a good market. They were the first one who start talking about barcode scanner in their phone and multiple features. But the problem was that the product had good features from technical perspective, but customers were not willing to buy for it. Customer was not giving the value for these features. They were happy with what Apple was giving. So eventually they have to shut down the Fire mobile phone also. So you see, it's not only about, because traditional wisdom says that if we have good features, right? If we can provide good features, if we have less price, if we can target some elements, then we will have a market. Or we can generally talk about this thing as a China syndrome. So what China syndrome is that let's suppose I am going to launch a new mobile phone, or maybe let's suppose a toothpaste in China market, and I would say that there is a billion population of China, and if only 5 to 10% of population is going to buy my toothpaste or my company toothpaste, we will be successful or millionaires. But the point is that when you see your product, first of all, you need to see who is your actual target customer. So if I, hypothetically, not the actual in terms of actual numbers, but hypothetically, if we have to classify or categorize the China population, we would say that 10% of the population is below 3 years or 4 years age. So these kids don't use toothpaste. Then we have 5 to 10% is above 80%, 80 years of age. They don't have teeth, so they don't need toothpaste. Then we have, you can say 60% population left. Out of 60% population, 20% population don't use toothpaste. They use the, you can say any other a medium or tool to brush their teeth. And then the only market size that left for us to target is 40%. And within that 40%, we have, you can say, some customers who are price savvy, right? So they need to go for products which are, affordable, say Colgate and others. And then we have some, specific customers who want to go for, say, high, like Sensodyne, right? So in that perspective, when you are talking about your product, when you are defining your product, you need to define or clear the uncertainty from the perspective of who is your customer, right? Who is your target customer? And when, from a business perspective, when you talk about your customer, then it will be easier for you to manage the uncertainty of your product or of your project. So that's how we talk about the resolve managing the uncertainty. So if you don't know, and there's a very good saying, it says that if your product is for everyone, then it is for no one. Right? So you need to be very clear. So when you talk about managing the uncertainty, you need to define that thing, and then you look for the other elements. So this is all about business uncertainty. But when you look at the technical uncertainty, and when you look at the you can say scope uncertainty, in that perspective, when you are looking at these key areas and defining the elements, you need to see how quickly you can experiment the elements of your project or the specifications of your project, or you can say the key elements or key technical areas of your project. So that's how we talk about the problem behind the problem. So problem is organizations are basically not combining the forces of project objective versus the project business objective. So there are two set of stakeholders, and both set of stakeholders have different problems or different metrics and KPIs when we talk about three key areas. So we generally talk about project from the perspective of time, cost, and scope, right? So we all are geared about, how do we see project in terms of time, in terms of cost, in terms of, you can say, quality, or you can say risk. But beyond that triple constraint, beyond that iron triangle or golden triangle, we need to find out the common ground for understanding and delivering the successful project. So once we understand the problem and problem behind the problem, now it's time to talk about the solution. When we talk about the solution, I would say there are three key decisions that an organization need to make.
Screen not visible.
There is some, I would say, noise.
If you can stop sharing and share again.
Is there any problem, Kazi, that I'm hearing some voices?
If you can stop sharing the screen, because it's now it is visible. Yes, I think there is an option you click. Okay, now it is visible. Thank you.
Okay, so to run that in that way, I need to start. I need to have a navigator too, so that I can see what I'm delivering. Okay, so I will manage it mine. So here we're talking about the perspective. We talked about the agile fashion. We talked about the problem from the perspective of agile, or you can, sorry, we talked about the problem from the perspective of project product objective and project business objective. And then we talked about the problem behind the problem from the perspective of how do we see two things, or sorry, three things. One is our, you can say, uncertainty. The other is our complexity, and the third thing is our speed. So these are the three key elements that we need to look into it when we talk about the overall perspective of agile and how we are going to look at the projects. Now it's time to talk about the, you can say, solution. So when we talk about the solution, I would say management has to make three decisions, or management has to institutionalize three key elements. One of the key element or decision that we need to look into is that whenever organization is going to make an organization strategy, and that strategy needs to be achieved through multiple initiatives. So the problem that I have, faced and I have seen in multiple organizations is that whenever they are going for initiative, for them, every initiative is by default a project. And it's been I would say, a tall job for me to talk to management and to explain them that not every initiative is a project. So some initiatives are projects, and some initiatives are programs, and some initiatives are plain tasks. So we don't need to, run every initiative from the mindset of a project. So this is the first decision. So when organization says that let's do this project, let's start this project. So in that perspective, when we are starting the project, when we are doing the project, the key element is that is it a project or not? That is the first decision, right? So one of the key element that we can look for is that when we are going to upgrade existing application, right? When we are going to build or enhance as a product, right? When we want to provide some functionality to our operational team, then we should look that initiative from the perspective of project, right? But let's suppose when company wants to go for a digital transformation, basically either in terms of digital transformation, we have two aspects. One aspect is we are changing the way we do the business. That is one aspect of digital transformation. And the second aspect of digital transformation is we are building a new product or new business for our company, which is more of a digital company. So in that perspective, when my company is going for a digital in transformation initiative, when my company is going to launch a new business or new product, when we are going for change initiative, when my company is going for, you can say, merger and acquisition, right? When my company is going to expand their business in new territory, new city, in new country, then these initiatives should not be managed as projects. These initiatives should be managed as program. So this is one of the key element or key decision that we need to look into it when we talk about the organization initiative. So if you understand that point, then let's suppose we come up to a point that, okay, the initiative we have is a project. Now comes to the second decision. So the second decision, and I have seen that people are, as I said, that now it's a fashion of agile. So every project is an agile project. So here, the second decision is that, okay, we have a project from the merits and elements. Now we need to, decide, do we need to do this project from predictive project management methodology, or we need to do this project from the perspective of adaptive project management methodology. Predictive project management methodology means that my project scope can be defined in clear terms, say around 80% of the scope or specification can be defined at the early stages of the project. So that is one thing. So when we do project through predictive project management, our mindset is to freeze the scope as soon as possible and then, run the project in a phased approach. But when we talk about a project where we know, let's suppose I know that I need to reach a new market, right? Let's suppose me and Kazi were sitting together and talking about how do we market agile project management for new business building. That is our approach, that is our outcome, that is our benefit that we know what we want to achieve because we want to grow our business, right? But then what are the steps? What are the scope? What are the functions? What are the features? Which channel? So these things are not yet defined. And we say, let's do a project, right? Let's do a project and see how we go about it. So in that perspective, the end goal, the end result that we want to achieve is clear, but how we are going to achieve that, what function, feature, applications we need to build to achieve that is not clear, then what should we do? We need to go for the adaptive project management mindset. So that's how we look at the perspective. So we decided the second decision. So first decision was that we have a strategic initiative. Should we do it as a project, as a program, or keep it as a simple task? Second decision that yes, it is a project. Now decide, are we going to do this initiative or this project as predictive or adaptive? Now adaptive, we say that we need to go for adaptive project management. The third decision, and that is also one of the key decisions that I see people don't have in their organization, is are we going to execute our agile project from iteration based agile or release based agile? And that is something which is missing. You know, if you look at the most famous agile guide or scrum guide by Mike Cohen, and Ken Schubert, so these two actually developed the guides. So when you look at the Scrum guide, especially from Ken Schubert and then Mike Cohen, you find out that when they talk about Scrum, their concept is it's all about that how you are going to run one iteration and the result of that iteration is available to the customer after the completion of iteration. So let's suppose I'm going to say my iteration or my sprint is of 2 weeks. So we agreed that, okay, we are going to work on ABC feature, but once we are done with 2 weeks work, this feature is available for all the general public to use it. So that is what iteration based agile is. But we also have another agile, and that agile is release based agile. So in the context of a release based agile, the point is that our team is working in each iteration. They are, providing the results and deliverables or features or stories, whatever you want to call in your language or in your company. But once that product feature or minimum marketable feature or deliverable or story is completed and accepted by the customer or client, we're not going to make it live for everyone. We are keeping it. And we will run agile iteration 1, iteration 2, iteration 3, depends upon our goal. So we ran, 3, 4, 5 different iteration. And at the end of the last iteration, we are going to make it live. And we call it release based agile. And I met more than or I have visited more than, I would say, 100 companies about agile project management and project management. And what I find out is that this basic difference is missing in a lot of companies, and they are saying that we are using agile and we are agile company. So they have a very different perspective. So I say that you need to define which agile you need to use in that perspective. So these are the key 3 decisions that an organization needs to make when they are going to adopt the agile project management. So before going into the next slide, I see there's a one hand. So
Yeah, there's
Shakib, yeah, if you have any question, you can ask. And I would say if you have, because we reached to a point where we are going to talk about our next part of the
in the
discussion.
chat.
So questions or you can write down on chat. I will see.
Hi.
Yes, he has mentioned.
Yeah, so I have written in chat as well. So I just want to understand, like you have said that um, if we are moving, we have any digital transformation that could be a program, right? So
Yeah.
is there any parameter or identifier from which we can easily differentiate between program and project? Like from your perspective, you are very clear to whom you will segregate under program and project. But when I'm thinking, so I'm confused whether this thing would be a program or project. So there might be some identifiers, right? Parameters.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
we can
So I will
categorize.
Yeah, I will specifically answer this question is next slide, because generally what happens is that when we talk about decisions, we talk about concepts, we talk about definitions, and as a consultant, we hide those parameters because we sell consultancy based on those parameters. But in the next slide, I will talk about it. So it's a very good question by the way, Shakib. So anyone has any question before I move on, because that is, you can say, the mid of our discussion. We talked about agile, we talked about the problem, and we talked about problem behind the problem and solution in terms of three key decisions. So now we are going to explain further these three decisions. So that's how we talk about the overall perspective. Okay, so we got another question from Salahuddin. Explain the best agile metrics. So there are multiple agile metrics. One of the best agile metric is your working product. If you are looking at the agile project from the perspective of delivery, it's basically that your success is being measured against the working product. So whatever project scope you are going to deliver within one iteration, it should be in working condition. So this is also one of the key, you can say, manifesto of agile, that we need to focus more on working software over comprehensive documentation. So we used to, in a traditional IT project model, we talk about analysis, design, development. So customer got engaged at the time of analysis, and what we give them at the end of the analysis phase. I did manage a project which was of around 2 years project, and it took us 6 months to capture the requirements. And after 6 months, what we gave them is the requirement document, right? And we say that please read and sign it off, because that's what you have, asked us, and that's how we write it down. And if you talk about the agile perspective, they say that, you need to show them the working product. So that is one of the key metric that you need to look into it when you talk about the implementation or using the project from the agile mindset or agile perspective. Okay, so I got two questions, one from Shakib, one from Salahuddin about that thing. One answer will be in the next slide, and one answer I gave it now. Anyone else who has the question before I move on to the next slide? Okay, so it seems that all are okay. Now it's time to move on to the next slide.
Asad, are you
Okay,
muted, or there is
so
something in my
generally,
system?
go ahead. What happened, Qazi? You have more question? Okay, now I can see we have a question from Muhammad. He says agile project management is implementation methodology, which basically can be adopted based on the type of project. However, it cannot ensure the sustainability. As part of the execution cycle, you can manage the expectation of key stakeholders. Okay, so Mohammed, when you talk about sustainability, if I read your overall content, so I would say sustainability in your perspective would be that finalization of scope, right? That's how we see the sustainability. But if it is something else, then you can write it down here. So you see, we do agile projects because we have variability in scope. We are testing multiple ideas. We are, testing the technology. We are testing the scope. We are testing the customer adaptation. We are testing the market. So you see, it's not just that when we go about the project management perspective or leading the project, we are using the traditional mindset. So, and that is very clear for you if you are looking at that thing. So yes, when we talk about agile project management, and if I understood the word sustainability perfectly fine, then it means that our scope is variable, it's dynamic, and we will be understanding by getting our results or from the output of our results. So that's how we talk about the, you can say, agile delivery or agile implementation methodology, right? Okay, so any more, Kazi, do you have any more inputs, or is just this? Okay, done. Thank you. Now, as we understood the solution from the three decision perspective, the next important slide in that perspective is the, you can say, consultant toolkit, and I call it a consultant toolkit for some specific reason. You see, when we go for any knowledge, when we go for any training, right? The biggest dilemma that we have is that we go and read and understand the definitions and concepts, right? And whenever we go for any exam, be it PMI exam or other exam or our university exams, our questions or our, you can say assessment is basically, let's suppose you are seeing one extreme right definition or the diagram which says NTCP model or diamond model. So what happens is that your instructor or teacher will talk about what is NTCP, what is stand, what is the meaning of novelty or complexity or technology and pace, and what are further elements into it. And then your exam will come like explain NTCP model based on the following criteria, and you will write down 2-3 page, or you will check box the question that okay, NTCP is this or this complexity is that and whatnot. But when you talk about the analytical mindset, when you talk about the consulting mindset, when you talk about that you are going to become a consultant, be it internal consultant or external consultant, then you need to use some frameworks or models, and these frameworks and models will help you to assess the situation and try to find out the solution based on that thing. Lots of people ask me, I said, can you define what MBA is? So technically an MBA is a collection of 30-40 frameworks and models, and you understand that models and frameworks and then try to give the answer for that perspective. So now I am giving you a consultant toolkit to make these 3 key decisions. So the first decision that we talk about was, is it a project or program? So one of the key things when you talk about project and program is it's all about what you want to manage. So when you see the project, when you see the overall organization, if your organization is going to do an initiative, and I'm using the word initiative, if your organization is going to do or launch an initiative and they have high uncertainty in terms of customer achievement, customer acquisition, market penetration, right? Then you should do it from the perspective of program management. And if you have you can say clarity that, let's suppose I am running a electricity organization and I need to enhance the electricity generation. So I know who is going to use that thing, what is the main purpose, there is a demand for it, I don't need to find a new customer base. So what I will do is that I will say, maybe I need to find out the ways to extend the capacity of generation, but I know how I'm going to sell it, who's going to sell it, who's my customer. These things are perfectly defined. Then I should go for this initiative as a project. So you see, one of the defining parameter is not about your project scope. It's not about your you can say scope criteria, function and features and access. It's about the business adaptability. That's how we talk about the definition of or difference between project and program. So in the context of the project, your success criteria is to deliver the product, service, feature, right? And then hand it over to operation department, business department, customer department, and they are responsible to realize the value of the project, or they are responsible to run the value of the project. So let's suppose we are providing you agile project management training, right? So our responsibility is to make things clear, give you content, give you tool, technique, toolkit, right? And then once we are done with the training, our success criteria is that were we able to clearly identify the key requirements? Did we provide the information? Did we connect with the customers? And that's it. Then now you will be responsible to execute projects in your organization utilizing these knowledge and frameworks and tools. So this is how we talk about the project versus the program perspective. And then, one of the key problem that we see in organization is that when they see program management, unfortunately, we see program management from the perspective of related projects. If I am managing multiple projects, 2-3 projects, then I'm a program manager, which is actually not true. In that perspective, when we talk about program management, we say that we have to achieve the business objective within a timeline. So that is the key element that we need to address when we talk about the overall perspective. So here, your STAR model will help you to understand what is your organization strategy, how your departments are aligned, what is your process of engaging the resources, getting the procurement services, getting the fund from finances, right? What type of resources you have. Now, if I look at every organization, they say that we want to be innovative, right? So somehow innovation is the big mantra right now. But when you see how they are executing or running the organization, you will find out that is not the way they are going to build the capability. And there's a very STAR model is provided by Jay Galbraith, and you can read his book Designing Successful Organization. And one of his quote is very interesting, that organizations usually have tomorrow's strategy, today's people, and yesterday's reward. So that's how we are trying to align the organization and achieve the innovative model. So we need to see how much readiness we have in our organization and how we can build the innovation capability in our organization. The second, I would say, framework is complexity uncertainty model that is provided by Michael Three in his book Program Management. And he talks about complexity and uncertainty. And if you look at, if we have less uncertainty of scope and medium complexity, then we can go for the traditional project management. We call it TPM. And if we have less uncertainty but more complexity in terms of engaging multiple departments and different or conflicting requirements of multiple departments, then we need to use the CPM, complex project management. If we have medium uncertainty or high uncertainty in terms of scope, not in terms of benefit, then we need to go for agile project management. And if we have high uncertainty in terms of achieving the benefits and complexity of integrating multiple players, then we need to go for the program management. So that is one of the key framework that you can use. Then another model, and this model is provided by David Shenar, and his book is Reinventing Project Management. And according to Shenar, somehow we have a paradox of project. We say that project is a project. So we need to use project management, and we need to use, initially we all were PMBOK aligned. Now we all are agile aligned. So see, you need to see how much novelty or newness you have in your project, the product that you are delivering, the scope, how much clarity you have in the terms of scope, the technology you are using, how much your team is able to, confident to deliver the project by using the technology. In terms of complexity, are you doing project with one department, with multiple organization? When you are supposed to deliver the project, is it your organization ongoing, customer engagement project or employee turnover project or, change management project, or you got to know that there is a competitor who is launching a product and you need to be first before them, or maybe you have some regulatory requirement which says that you need to be able to update your system till 31st December, otherwise you are going to face penalties, or there are disaster and crisis and stuff, and then you need to do it now. So based on these factors, right, you can decide that are we going to go for iteration-based agile or release-based agile. So that's how we are going to address the uncertainty, complexity, and speed perspective. And these three important frameworks will help you to adopt agile project management and manage these things. Now, when we use these models and talk about it, the next important thing is how do we, understand and differentiate the iteration-based agile, or you can say release-based agile. In the context of iteration-based agile, you see, pre-initiation is a time where you talk about the need for the project, or you had an idea, your company had an idea, or you have regulatory requirement or customer request, anything, right? Based on that, your company did develop business case or feasibility study, or your project was part of a program, right? In that perspective, all these activities are justifying the need of the project. And then management is going to make a decision that, yes, we are going to do this initiative. Yes, we are going to do this initiative as a project. And yes, we are going to do this initiative as an agile project. And finally, we are delivering this project from a iteration-based agile. As you can see, in iteration-based agile, first of all, during the initiation time, we talk about the vision statement of project. Vision should be written from the perspective of project business objective, not from the perspective of project product objective. So that is the key element that we need to understand. And then whatever requirement, specification, information we know we have, we list down in our product backlog. So product backlog contains all the requirements, all the features, all the bugs, all the issues that we need to resolve. And then, at the start of each iteration, we are going to pick prioritize item from the product backlog and commit that we are going to deliver it. And then my team work towards the iteration, be it a 2-week iteration or 4-week iteration, we deliver the product. And this product, right after the delivery and acceptance from the customer goes for utilization of end users. So people can go and use it right now, right? And you can see they are helping to realize the value. And if they are finding some, you can say, difference or they have some requirements, they can go back and talk about product backlog. Another interesting point is that I see when people talk about agile project management, they decide number of iterations and also decide what they are going to deliver in each iteration. You cannot decide in agile that what you are going to do in each iteration at the start of a project. Then the whole concept of agile project management has no value. So you decide what you are going to deliver in each iteration at the start of each iteration. So that's how you talk about the overall perspective of iteration based agile. I hope now it's very clear from this picture.
Yeah.
Okay. Now the last part or the last slide of our session today is all about how do we see the release based iteration. As you see the diagram, the release based iteration means that after each iteration, my team is delivering the product, but we are making it available to customer and end user after, you can say, a couple of iterations, and we call it release. So every iteration is giving me update or increment, and then we are going to showcase or launch it to the customer after the release one. And that is the concept that we call MVP, minimum viable product, or release one. And we need to see which agile initiatives should be done through iteration based agile or should be done through release based agile. And based on the release input, based on the release utilization of end user and customer, we will update our product backlog and then go for the release 2 for our project. So that is very important. And in that way, you see that you are managing the uncertainty, whatever information you have, you are going for the iteration, you are delivering the product, you are delivering the result. And then, your speed is very constant. You know that you are going to deliver the result after each iteration. And the complexity is being handled in a way that all the team members or the development team, those who are required to work in a project, are sitting in one location. They are co-located, right? It's not like that we have one team member who will be available after 2 days. One team member is here and there. No, we are developing a cross-functional team, a T-shaped team, working together with sitting together, for some exclusion where we have an agile team and we are delivering for one project. So that's how we deal the complexity. So it's very important that as a project manager, as a business expert, as a agile enthusiast, we need to understand project from the perspective of uncertainty, from the perspective of complexity, and from the perspective of speed. But if you are able to manage these 3 key factors, then you will be able to implement agile project management or project management in your organization. So, that's how we talk about the overall perspective of agile project management, and the main problem, which is basically differentiating between the project product objectives and project business objectives. So that is the end of our session. We talked about the agile perspective. Now the floor is open for questions. You can ask questions, and thank you.
So maybe we can have questions in the chat window because there are so many people. So if you have questions, please post in the chat window. And meanwhile, we are in the QA sessions. I will paste a link for the feedback form. So please fill the feedback form. And before we all leave, we will be having a group photo online. So questions, if you have, please post in the chat window.
Yeah, we will share the presentation. I will send it to Kazi and he will share it with all the participants who have attended this session.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. So Asad, I think meanwhile you can stop the presentation. And I would like people to please open your camera and we can do things in parallel. Open your camera, please fill in the feedback form and you can put a question in the chat as well. I think these things can be done because there are a lot of people. So post a question if you have or open your camera. And I will take a screenshot for our LinkedIn page. Thank you. Thank you. Are you able to click the link? Is it probably some people, if they are from the bank, because it is Google Doc, so it will not open. So we will send the link through email as well. Okay, yes, I can see people have opened their camera. Asad, I think you have to close the spotlight. You are in the main window so that we can have all of them in the same.
Let me change the direction of my spotlight.
No, this yeah, this option, yeah. See, now we can see people have already opened the cameras. Thank you, Deepa. Thank you, Rajesh. So many people. Let's wave our hands and let me take a quick print screen. Thank you, Jawad. Thank you, Rakesh. Let me save it here. Please keep filling the feedback form. I will take one more screenshot. Okay, thank you. Thanks to all of you. Okay, usually people have a couple of questions regarding the recording and the presentation slides. So our plan is that just give us some time over the weekend and we will send a recording of all the sessions. As you know, there were altogether 6 sessions. I would just like to share it with you. Can you see the screen? Asad, can you see my screen? I've just shared an image.
Yes, I see that. I can see that.
Okay. So with this Agile project management, I would like to thank you, all of you, and the people who are not here, all of the 6 speakers, you can see it on the screen, and all the people, almost, if I would say, almost more than 1,500 people joined in the whole week in different sessions. It was a wonderful event, and now I can say that people have asked us for more technical sessions. So in future, we are planning to do a tech fest. Maybe we can do it separate. Maybe we can do a separate session for audit and finance people and for HR. So thanks to all of you and all the speakers, all the participants who have participated during the last 5 to 6 days. And thank you, Asad, for a wonderful session. Let me check if we have some questions. People have posted any questions or not. No, there is none. Oh, Usman has shared a gallery photo. Thank you. Thank you, Sayed. Let me check how many people have filled it already. Oh, we have 7 people filled it.
Thank you all. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Thanks you. Yeah, thank you. 10, 12 people have filled the feedback form. Thank you, Paramaswaran, Vijayan, from Tanfeed. I think people are still filling the feedback form, Asad. So people are still online. They're filling the feedback form. If you would just like to add a few words about your overall experience and challenges while implementing Agile or while establishing a PMO. So people are here. They are filling the feedback form. And I think you can add a couple of sentences before we all leave. You are mute, Asad. You are mute.
Thank you, Akazi. My last 2 cents would be that whenever we embark on a journey of a project, we need to see a project from the business perspective lens first. That will help us to identify what is the actual ask of the company, number one. Number two is that it also helps us to define or see the priority of the project. Most of the time when you are leading the project, you got resources, you got commitment at the start of a project. Management is also excited that we are going for this project. And then down the line, you find out that the key resources are being pulled off and your project is not getting the right support. So in that moment, if you are very clear about the project business objective, it will help you to negotiate the priority and get the resources. The second important element that I like to talk about here is that you need to work on your personal capability, that how you lead a project, how you adopt the, you can say, innovative mindset, and more importantly, how you solve the problem. And when I say solve the problem, it does not mean that you are a technical expert person. You need to understand that how you ask right question. So for you, right now, if I talk about the global need of project managers, program managers, and even CEOs, the key point is that it's about how do we lead through questions? How do we ask the right questions? We are not supposed to have all the answer of the problem, but we need to know how to reach out to the right problem by asking the right question. So that's what I would say, key ingredients for success when you are leading the projects.
Thank you. We will give it a call off now. Asad, if you can please stop the recording. I think you are from the host ID, so you have to go in the options and stop the recording.